That night felt flawless. Sarah and Owen sat together at a cozy restaurant table, soft candlelight casting a warm glow around them. Celebrating their 5th wedding anniversary, Sarah felt as if they'd crossed a significant milestone, proving the strength of their bond. When Owen, with a gentle smile, handed her a small velvet box, she accepted it, feeling deeply moved. Inside lay a pendant with a stone that matched the color of her eyes perfectly. "Owen, it's beautiful," she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. In that moment, all the little misunderstandings of recent months seemed trivial. Later that night, however, as she examined the pendant at home, something caught her eye. Tiny letters were engraved on the back. She squinted, trying to read them. "With love, for Emily." Her heart tightened. Who was Emily? And what did she mean to Owen? Sarah sat frozen, trying to rationalize. Could it be an innocent mistake? A jeweler's error, perhaps? Yet troubling thoughts swirled in her mind one after another. She recalled how Owen had recently been coming home late, often silent and distant. Even his explanations sometimes felt forced, as if he was hiding something. The next day, Sarah showed the pendant to her closest friend, Claire. Sitting at her kitchen table, Sarah held out the jewelry with trembling hands. "Look, do you see this?" Her voice quivered. Claire squinted, reading the engraving, her expression darkening. "Sarah, this doesn't look good. Are you sure you know Owen as well as you thought?" Pain seeped into Sarah's every nerve. Claire's suggestion, "Watch Owen closely to uncover the truth," stuck with her. Though she desperately wanted to dismiss the idea, thoughts of Emily haunted her. After the engraving incident, things quickly spiraled downward. Sarah could no longer shake the oppressive feeling that Owen was hiding something significant. He began leaving home more frequently, claiming he had urgent business. When she attempted to question him, he brushed her off, his answers curt and evasive. Each brief response seemed to drive an invisible wedge between them, making her feel more isolated. One evening, after Owen left for another important meeting, Sarah, unable to ignore her suspicions any longer, rummaged through his coat pockets. Her fingers touched something. She pulled out a receipt from a restaurant, dated just a few days prior. They'd never been there together. Her heart dropped. Who could he have dined with? Emboldened by the first discovery, Sarah continued her search for clues the next day. In a drawer where he kept his belongings, she found another receipt, this one from an expensive women's boutique. She hadn't received any recent gifts, certainly nothing that matched this purchase. Anxiety churned within her, and frustration began to boil over. How many secrets was Owen keeping? At dinner that evening, she decided to confront him, carefully choosing her words. "Owen, it seems like you've been distant lately," Sarah said gently, masking the tension in her voice. He glanced at her briefly, his expression guarded. "What makes you think that?" he replied coolly, before standing up abruptly. "I have work to do, Sarah. Let's drop it, all right?" Watching him walk away, Sarah felt a lump of despair settle in her chest. For the first time in their marriage, she felt as though they were truly drifting apart. Unable to endure the suspense any longer, Sarah decided to follow Owen the next time he left. Quietly tailing his car, her heart raced as she maintained her distance. Conflicting thoughts swirled in her mind, filling her with dread. To her shock, instead of heading to the city center, Owen drove to a run-down neighborhood on the outskirts. She gripped the steering wheel tightly. What was he doing here? She watched as he parked in front of an old, dilapidated building. Staying hidden, she saw him step out with a bag of groceries and what looked like medication. Approaching the house, he knocked on the door, and an elderly woman opened it, greeting him with a tired but grateful smile. Beside her stood a young woman in her 20s, who looked at Owen with visible appreciation. Sarah's mind raced. Who were these women? Was this his secret family? When Owen finally returned home, Sarah was waiting at the door, fury blazing in her eyes. "I know everything, Owen," she blurted out, barely holding back tears. "You betrayed me. How could you?" Owen froze, shocked by her words. As he tried to explain, Sarah, overwhelmed by anger, tore off the pendant he'd given her and threw it into the pool. "This was supposed to be a symbol of our love. Now it means nothing," she shouted, storming away and leaving him in stunned silence. Hours later, her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Standing there was the young woman she'd seen earlier in the poor neighborhood. Sarah's anger reignited, but before she could speak, the stranger introduced herself. "My name is Emily. I'm Owen's sister." Sarah's anger turned to confusion. Emily, his sister. She looked at the girl speechless as Emily continued. "We lost contact years ago. Our mother had to put me in foster care after our father passed away. Recently, Owen found me and he told me about you. He wanted us to be a family again. That pendant." Emily's voice softened. "He had my name engraved to mark our reunion." Emily's words echoed in Sarah's mind. The jealousy, the resentment, everything she'd felt seemed so misguided. She remembered how she had thrown the pendant into the pool, her own actions clouded by her suspicions. Shame flooded her, realizing how she had treated Owen. When he came home, he found Sarah and Emily sitting together in silence. Owen explained that he had spent years searching for his sister, hoping to bring her back into his life. But fear of misunderstanding had kept him from being honest. "Sarah, I should have told you from the start," he admitted, his voice filled with regret. "I never wanted to hurt you." With a shaky voice, Sarah replied, "Owen, I doubted you so much. I'm so sorry." They knew the memory of this ordeal would linger, but they were ready to rebuild. Sarah suggested a fresh start, promising to trust each other completely. Owen took her hand, agreeing to face the future together no matter what.